Okay, so this interview is with Mr. Stephen Andrews, who is a faculty member in the history department and a faculty chair at Central New Mexico Community College. Stephen, thanks so much for doing an interview with me today.
Happy to do it.
Great. So I just have a couple of questions for you. The first question is about shared governance. So why don't you tell me from your perspective what shared governance is?
Well, let's be perfectly clear. Shared governance is a joke. For actual shared governance to exist, both sides would have to possess some degree of sovereignty. That would mean that there is some degree of check and balance in the actual decision-making at a college. What masquerades for shared governance is faculty input. Now, that's just the reality of it. You can lament, you can resist, you can grumble, but the reality of it is shared governance, at best, is amiable input. Now, faculty just have to deal with that and make the best they can of it. And so here at CNM, we're in the second incarnation of a faculty chair model that puts chairs closer to the decision making, and the input is more real. It's not shared governance. It shouldn't be called that. Shared governance would involve sovereignty with checks and balances, and that doesn't exist. And so why we've even used this phrase, shared governance. What I think CNM has achieved with this chair model, and why I'm able to be more positive than perhaps I was in years past, is that faculty really do have, through this chair model, greater inclusion, greater access to the decision making. They don't possess sovereignty. And that's just the way it is. And to continue to act as if faculty who can meet in a Senate and pass, after hours of debate, a non-binding resolution, that's not sovereignty. Now, that's perhaps better than nothing, but it's not sovereignty. So it shouldn't be called shared governance. What it should be called is amiable inclusion, and faculty should work with it and make the best they can of it.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Now, from your perspective, can you share with me what is academic freedom and why is it important?
Well, academic freedom, I'm sure all of you know, is something that really is legally defined, and there are many more restraints on it than I think there should be. And so luckily, it doesn't typically come down to a legal showdown. What I think academic freedom should be is that colleges should hire and colleges should support and inspire really smart people. And for a really smart faculty member, a teacher, somebody who's responsible for deep critical thought across a lifetime, anything that enhances the story, the lesson, the point, the depth, should be protected by academic freedom. We ought to trust people not to use extreme political bias, extreme gratuitous sexual details. These things ought to be a matter of understanding between a college and its faculty, so that faculty are using what is necessary, and if it's delicate, it's delicate. If it's pointed, it's pointed. If it's we're often charged with, our job is to unsettle young minds. And unsettling young minds is at times unsettling. And that is just the way of the world. Academic freedom should be an issue of trust. And a faculty member should never abuse that trust. And you hear these stories where unnecessarily graphic details or images are used. But what do you mean unnecessarily? Well, that gets difficult in an art history class, film class, or what have you. And so I think, much related to the first question on shared governance, I think there unfortunately often does not exist in the degree it should, but nonetheless we should move towards an issue of trust. The trust between really smart people running a college and really smart people teaching at a college, And if that trust exists, if that communication exists, there's no reason to bring in the legal tidbits around academic freedom.
Okay, good. Thanks. So, final question. Anything else you'd like to share with the students in the course?
I hesitate to even mention this.
Okay.
But although for 20 years I've been a member of a faculty union, I do wonder, and I don't mean this to be in any way speaking for C&M or the union of which I'm a member, but I do begin to wonder as an individual whether or not the union management model is the best thing for academia. Whether or not squaring off and taking sides and living in a landscape, an atmosphere of opposition necessarily guarantees the best administration or the best teaching. I'm not ready to provide a conclusion yet, but I'm beginning to wonder if that's a good model or not. And so for your students who are going on to be administrators of colleges and universities, they should at least think about that I'm a 20-year member of the union, and I'm beginning to wonder whether or not that's the best model. That's about the only thing I'd have to add, I guess.
Okay, good. Stephen, thanks so much for taking the time today.